Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. It's time for video number 6 in my tulip card series. When I started prepping cards for video number 6, my main focus was some pattern paper from P13. This is their Spring is Calling collection. I only purchased 2 of the 12 by 12 sheets from the collection. It's the same sheet, double-sided. One side has beautiful, sort of a purplish pink tulip, and the other is a lovely tone-on-tone gingham design. I do have a link for the individual 12 by 12 sheet that I'm using, along with the 12 by 12 Spring is Calling full collection. Unfortunately, the individual sheet may be out of stock. When I was recording voiceover, there were only a few available. But it looks like the full Spring is Calling collection is available, and you can purchase it in 12 by 12 or the 6 by 6 size. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Sugar Pea Designs. It's Sugar Sketch number 24. The background of my card features the lovely tulip design, and the smaller panel on the left side, I'm using the green tone-on-tone pattern. I did add a scallop border on the left side of the green panel, and I used a die from Pretty Pink Posh. On the right side of the green panel, I did add a Love from Lizzie peel-off. This lovely green mirror color. I wrap the ends around the back, and I'll layer this piece on some green cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. On the inside of the card, I am adding a narrow strip of the pattern paper, just for a little extra detail. I will be using a tulip die set. This is from Honeybee Stamps. It's their Lovely Layers Tulips. I have always enjoyed their lovely layer floral die sets, and the tulips are definitely my favorite. Before assembling the tulips, I'll first add a stitch circle die cut, and I did use some white shimmer cardstock for the circle. I'll add a scrap piece of cardstock on the right side of the circle before adhering it down. That way it stays at the same level. Now I'll start assembling the tulips. There are 3 different tulip options on the die set. There's the large tulip, a partially open tulip, and then also a bud. I'll be using the bud and the smaller tulip. I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the layers for the 2 flowers, and I'm using some scrap cardstock for my stash. The darker colors will be the back layers of the tulip, and the lighter colors will be up front. I am adding a little extra ink on the very top of all of the tulip petals. Use Distress Oxide Seedless Preserves ink color. I'll assemble the partially open tulip first. There are 4 different layers of petals. I'll start with the back layer, then one by one add the next layers. Honeybee Stamps lovely layer die sets are so easy to assemble, but if you ever have a question, they do have a layering guide on their website. The bud has just 3 pieces to layer together. One way to know you have your flowers assembled correctly, all of the visible die cut pieces will have some lovely etch detail. I also cut out a stem for the bud and a stem with a leaf for the other tulip. I use a lighter green cardstock color for the individual leaf. Before attaching the flowers to the stems, I'm using some white ink and adding color at the very bottom of each of the flowers. It's similar to the tulip design on the pattern paper. Now I'll put glue at the very top of the stem with the leaf and attach the open flower. And I'll flip over the bud, put a little bit of glue on the back, and attach the stem. Next I'll add both of the tulips on the circle die cut. I'll start with the small bud, put it on the left side, then I'll add the partially open tulip on the right side, and the stems will overlap just slightly. I'm not sure what I'll do with this set of cards, so I decided not to add any foam dimension. More than likely, it'll be a set that I donate to a local charity. For a sentiment, I'm using a set from Honeybee Stamps. This is their Mailbox Memos stamp set, and I also have the coordinating dies. I've already gone ahead and stamped out a happy hello, and I stamped it on some light green cardstock. I'll be adhering it in the lower left-hand corner, and part of the word hello will be sitting on one of the tulip stems. I'll put thin foam dimension on the back of most of the sentiment, and in the area that sits on top of the tulip stem, I used the coordinating die and cut it out from white cardstock. Then I trimmed off just that very end piece and glued it on the back. For embellishments, I'm adding some more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in the silver color, and I'll put 2 in the upper right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I was able to make a total of 7. For some of the cards, I used the tulip paper as that main background, and for the other cards, I used the green tone-on-tone paper for the background. I figured I may as well finish off the 2 sheets of pattern paper, so I have 2 more cards to share with you. For this card, the leftover scrap piece wasn't quite large enough for a full background. You can see it's about 1/8 or maybe 1/4 of an inch short. I'll adhere it on the same dark green cardstock. On the left side of the card, to cover up that missing area, I do have a narrow strip of the green tone-on-tone paper, and I'll adhere that down. I think it's about 3/4 of an inch wide. I'll add a Love from Lizzie peel-off along the right side of that piece. This is the same green mirror color in the pinstripe style, and I use the widest width. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I will be adding a stitch circle die cut, but this time I'll have the right side of the circle flush on the right side of the card. I'll first hold up the circle, flip over my card, use my scissors to trim off the extra. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the circle on the right side of the card. I've already die cut, inked up, and assembled the 2 tulips, although I did forget to adhere the 1 tulip on the stem, so I did that real quick. I'll add both of the tulips in the same way I did for the previous card. Put the smaller bud on the left and the larger flower on the right side. This time I cut out an additional leaf, and I'll adhere it on the left side of the bud flower. I'm adding the same sentiment, a happy hello. This is always one of my favorite sentiments to use. I will be popping it up with some foam dimension, and I'm using scrapbook.com's 1/8 inch foam strips. This is the 1 millimeter thickness, so it doesn't add a lot of extra dimension. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment on the left side of the tulip bud. For embellishments, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in the silver color. And you may have noticed on the first set of cards, I also used some of the white mini circle peel-offs. I love using the mini shape peel-offs for embellishments. They don't add any extra dimension, and they're available in a wide variety of colors and styles. So there is my finished card, and I was only able to make 1 since I'm almost out of pattern paper. At this point, I have 3 pattern paper pieces left over. I'll be using 2 of them on this card. They're both about the same size. I did cut one of them in half. For the background of my card, I used some white shimmer cardstock, and I added this lovely design using a die from Pink Fresh Studio. It's called Tulip Love. I cut down that background piece to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'll layer it on the same white shimmer cardstock. And this piece is an additional 1/8 of an inch. So 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. I used ATG tape and also glue on the back of this panel. There's all that pierced and cut out detail. I wanted to make sure it all laid nice and flat, so I did use some extra adhesive. Next, I'll layer it on the same dark green cardstock that I've been using throughout the video. I also cut 2 narrow strips of the same green cardstock, and I'll be adding all 5 of the strips on the center of the card. The tulip paper will be the widest strip. Then I'm adding the green tone-on-tone pattern paper above and below it. Now I'll add the solid green cardstock pieces. And I didn't measure any of these pieces, I'm really just eyeballing them. I'll put adhesive on the back, then add all 5 strips on the center of the card. And I know I am covering up quite a bit of that background, but you can still see the tulips at the top and bottom of the card. One of the green cardstock pieces I didn't have lined up very well. Luckily, I was able to peel it up without ripping the paper and reattach it. Now I'll flip over this panel, use my scissors, and trim off the overhang. That way those 5 pieces are flush on the right and left side of the card. To help the tulip pattern paper pop just a little bit more, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off above and below that piece, using the same green mirror color in the pinstripe style, and this is the narrowest width. I like to cut the peel-offs just a little bit wider than the panel, then I'll wrap the ends around the back, and that'll help so they don't fall off later. I do the same thing with washi tape and ribbon. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This is the only card in the set where I'm not adding the die-cut tulip image. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word thanks. This is a die set from scrapbook.com. It's their thank you die word set number 3. It has the word and also the outline. I cut out the word from some pinkish purple cardstock, and the outline piece I used some vellum. I'll adhere the 2 pieces together. Then I'll add the sentiment on the front of the card. And when I'm adding glue on the back side, I'm making sure only to put it behind the word thanks. I don't want the glue showing through on the vellum. And by using vellum for the outline, I won't be covering up all that beautiful tulip pattern paper. Now I'll adhere the word in place, trying to make sure to get it nice and straight. I will place an acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Then to finish off the card, I'll use more of the silver mini circle peel-offs. Put 3 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 underneath the sentiment on the right side. So there is my finished card. A very simple design, but I was able to use up 2 narrow strips of pattern paper, along with some cardstock. And here is all of the pattern paper I have left over, just 1 small piece. It's about 2 1/8 of an inch by 1.5 inches. Not very big at all. Now here's another look at the 9 cards I made using P13's Spring is Calling pattern paper, along with Honeybee Stamp's Lovely Layers Tulips die set. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.